Hey guys, it's Saturday morning. Time to get our big box of Lucky Charms, some OJ,
Right. A
and
well-balanced breakfast.
and a piece of fruit and a grand muffin, and it's time for Saturday morning cartoons. It's a lost treasure now that everything is on streaming that we talked to, that we don't really have anymore. I'm your host Steve O with
Jay.
and since it's Saturday morning and I'm feeling a little nostalgic, let's talk about our favorite Saturday morning cartoons. So Jay, tell me, what was it? What was your experience with Saturday morning cartoons?
So my experience with Saturday morning cartoons was it was cartoons on Saturday pretty much all day.
All day. Okay,
Right.
well, that's because you probably have.
Because I wasn't allowed to watch TV during the week.
Oh, gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
So
you're
I
just, you
binged.
gotta
I was
binge.
I was at a cartoon binger on the weekends.
That's cool. Like so, and like for me, it was always like the Fox Kids network, ABC, one Saturday morning, Fox Kids. They would have like shows like Bobby's World,
Right.
Tick, Power Rangers,
Gotcha.
and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I
I was much more on the Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon were my. But
well,
I would branch off to those other networks sometimes for a couple of
Well,
shows.
it's just like it's like the squirrel. What was it? Secret Squirrel.
Secret Squirrel. Yeah, there's like tons of
I mean, there's tons. And
strange.
like, one thing I was like gonna look at, when I was thinking about doing an episode, because I thought let's just kind of briefly skim through our favorite cartoons. So I guess you want to start with, what's up, Doc? Let's talk about Looney Tunes first.
Yeah.
What was your kind of? I mean, I remember Looney Tunes. They had kind of a resurgence back in the late '90s with Space Jam.
Right.
And I think it was a Michael Jordan Bugs Bunny ad, and they were like, "Let's make it a commercial into a movie," and But like Looney Tunes for me, I remember Tasmanian Devil,
Right.
Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and
Tweety Bird.
Tweety Bird. That's all, folks. Porky Pig. And then of course, and what was your kind of like? I guess I remember like Elmer Fudd hunting rabbits,
Right.
and stuff like that. And what was your kind of takes on Looney Tunes?
I love Looney Tunes. There's some of the some great episodes.
What was your favorite episode?
There's so many. There's one. Is it Chuck? Who's the
Chuck Jones?
Yeah, Chuck Jones. His stuff is like almost like reaches like an art form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like there was that one. I remember that one pilot or that one episode where Elmer Fudd is getting going to the barbershop.
Yeah, there's so many that are like the best was like where they redo like the operas or like the classical music and it's to the music. Those are so great.
Yeah, I thought so. And then there's who's the big red giant?
Oh, like the monster. Oh, what's his name? I can't remember his name exactly, but I know who you're talking about.
I mean, because like I remember that. I remember the. Hello, I'm Marvin the Martian.
Right.
You're going to go to my spaceship, And then I kind of looked at like, then I think the Looney Tunes got a little bit different as they had like Baby Looney Tunes and
yeah, it sort of got some weird morphs. Like spin-offs in the
Lola Bunny.
Tiny was it Tiny Toons? Yeah, was that
Tiny
Baby?
Toons like Tiny Toons was like at Acme University with
right.
Like,
and I guess they're still making
Dizzy Devil. There's and it was pretty much like the I want to say the offspring, but it's like the counterparts to
the adult versions. Yeah,
like Bugs Bunny was Buster Bunny, and there was the Babs Bunny, Plucky Duck,
right.
Elmira, who was like, remember Elmira? I'm gonna love you and squeeze
because that mixed in with was not Freak. I don't know. Stuff got sort of blurred. Like the characters were like sort of split between different shows and stuff.
I do remember that like it was on like a lot of those shows were on Fox Kids, and then WB came out in '97.
Right.
And they moved all the way to the Kids WB.
Okay.
But those were the shows. I guess going back to our list, I when I can't just stop fiddling, I just takes me riddling. I'm popping the Sailor Man. Boop, boop. What were your thoughts on Popeye the Sailor Man?
I liked Popeye. It was always who's that?
It was Bluto and Olive Oil.
Yeah, and I liked.
I mean, they were so simple. I mean,
right.
You look at it. It's sort of like Popeye is basically doing something strong. He trying to do something strong or trying to show off to Olive Oil. Bluto is more of the step aside. Let's just show you how a real man can do it. And he would crack his fingers and go, "All right, I'm going to take everybody on," and then he would get it, and then he would find a can of spinach.
Yeah.
And then they put it in his pipe, and then he would right. And Olive Oil is like, "Oh, Popeye, I love you."
Yeah, I definitely like the animation of Popeye. Just how everything's sort of wobbly and wiggly. Yeah.
Well, I do remember there was going back to The Simpsons. There's an episode where Homer gives up beer for a little bit, and he's like, "I need some mule for my fuel, some gas for me ass," and it's like a Popeye skit.
Right.
And, I mean, it's really Popeye. They're pretty simple episodes.
Right. Well, speaking of, have you ever had spinach from a can, Steve?
No,
Me neither.
Frozen can. Frozen.
Oh, you have, or maybe that's time. I need to eat more spinach from a can to get strong.
Look at these muscles, these guns. Moving on from Popeye, to Flintstones. Meet the Flintstones. They're a modern Stone Age family.
Yeah.
From the town of Bedrock. It's places in history. Okay, so what was your thoughts on the Flintstones? Because what's interesting for me is someone told me it was the Honeymooners,
right?
Which was a 1960s show that pretty much has the same storyline,
right?
Workaday Schlub with.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the Flintstones. I don't think it definitely was not my favorite. I definitely really enjoyed the theme song. It was very strong. But the actual episodes were very much more like a older sitcom.
Yeah,
so it's sort of
and I was watching some before you came here, and I was just kind of watching just sort of how, how Fred is sort of the, Fred, he's like very loud, but he's not obnoxiously loud. I mean, Homer is, but he's obnoxious, but he's got the comedy to back it up.
Right.
Fred is a little bit more, jovial than I think. Not jovial, but just.
I just remember him sort of bad stuff, and he just gets angry, and him just yelling
Wilma,
or just him dropping stuff on his feet, or I don't know. It's just him being upset
and that kind of thing, and then
but the whole secret.
Barney was sort of like.
Was it the Order of the Water Buff?
Order the Waffle Brothers Lodge or something.
Yeah, that weird
and then I guess and I liked how Wilma was a doubting wife,
right?
Betty.
What was their Rocky Pebbles? I was trying to remember their cereal.
Fruity Pebbles.
Oh, was it Fruity Pebbles?
Fruity Pebbles. We just had.
No, we had Fruit Loops. I got them mixed
Fruity
up.
Pebbles, yeah. Fruity Pebbles and then Cocoa Pebbles and then Marshmallow. It's like, and he's like, Barney, and then remember those commercials for the Fruity Pebbles?
Right.
So the commercials, and you probably know these if you're a '90s kid. They would have Fred would be like, I'm about to eat my cereal, and so he would get he would put it down on the porch, and then for some reason Barney would want to steal his pebbles, and he's just going. Doesn't he have a job? Couldn't he just go down to the store and get some?
Think about it, there's a lot of cereal-based crime in the 90s. Yeah. A lot of cereal being stolen on commercials.
I think it was, remember wasn't there the honeycombs?
It seemed like every commercial someone's conniving to steal the cereal.
Gotta have my pops.
Right,
gotta have those pops.
Trix is always after
Trix.
The rabbit.
I remember there's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer's trying to catch a leprechaun. He says, "Don't worry, these Lucky Charms will catch a leprechaun." And he pours him down, and it's he looks at the box and it says Tricks, and all these rabbits come by. And and I do remember I guess Flintstones. They had that kind of thing. I was watching, like they had more of the Flintstones Power Hour,
right?
Where they actually had more of a kind of a teenage version of Bam Bam and what's his name? Pebbles and Bam Bam.
Right.
And it was interesting because I think in some of the renditions they started a rock band because
I vaguely remember that. And then I remember was it the Flintstones or the Jetsons had like a weird like alien guy? I think it was the Flintstones had an alien that
Kazoo.
Yeah.
Hello,
okay.
dum dum.
Because then he did a crossover. I think Gazoo caused a crossover with them and the Jetsons. I think.
Yeah, I think so. Like, no,
I remember that being like a big event on TV. Yeah,
yeah, and I think I do remember that show. I mean, what I guess. Do you remember? I do remember. What other shows you want to cover?
I don't know. We could probably talk for hours now. What was next on our list?
Jetsons.
Okay. The Jetsons.
Jetsons was cool because it was like there's a theory. Have you heard of the theory that the Flintstones are in an apocalyptic world?
Oh, after the Jetsons.
After the Jetsons.
Oh, could be.
Or it's either after the Jetsons or the Jetsons are in the future. It's like a time.
Oh, they're just like on the planet's surface. They're in the Stone Age, and then like Jetsons in space, or
or something like that.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that.
There's an interesting thing, and like one of the things is going back to the Flintstones is Hanna-Barbera or DC did some comic books based on like Hanna-Barbera comics back in like maybe 2016, 2017, somewhere around there, and one of them was social issues with the Flintstones.
Okay.
And what they had this scene where they were, I guess they were flying or not flying, but they were like driving around, and he's like, "Oh look, I wonder how Adam and Steve are doing."
Okay.
Like
it was just like a.
Like it was a comic.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, I never saw those. I guess.
I do remember.
Were those in the 90s or?
I think they came out like 2016.
Oh, like that's recent. Okay.
These were like recent. DC did them. Jetsons. I remember Astro. Daughter Judy. Like it was like
right.
Like Flintstones.
Another great theme song.
Jetsons was like. Jetsons.
Meet George Jetson.
Meet George Jetson. That's it.
Yeah.
I keep thinking like trying.
Yeah, it's hard to get if they all get sort of mushed together.
Like, meet George Jetson. His boy Elroy. Jane, his wife, and Jane would he'd give him some money, and Jane would take his wallet.
Yeah, I remember.
And then daughter Judy.
Right.
And
I just remember George being
boy
miserable.
And Astro was the dog.
Right.
He had his boss, Mr. Sprocket or Wesley Sprocket.
I don't know. He was making sprockets, which I don't think it was ever defined what it was.
It was just like what you do. Like there's a TV
I just remember him being just miserable in drudgery of his factory job.
And then he had a robot, Rudy, I think.
Yeah, sort of like the maid.
No, that's
Rose.
Judy. Rosie was the maid.
Right.
Rudy was the computer screen.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was Jetsons. I'm a big fan. I mean,
what were you, Jetsons versus Flintstones? Which one do you think?
Flintstones.
Flintstones.
You could have a mammoth figure vacuum.
Right.
It's a living. I guess. Okay. So you want to go? Let's go back to the 80s.
Okay.
What was your favorite or I guess we kind of grew up in the 90s, so some of the 80s shows, like Speed Racer, I guess was one of them. Was that an 80s show?
I always get confused what's 80s, what's 70s.
Because
a lot of times the Cartoon Network, they just sort of
blend them all together.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, 80s, I guess. Well, I mean, I never watched He-Man. Did you?
I watched a couple, not a whole lot. I had a bunch of the action figures from
there's Skeletor, and I did watch the Dolph Lumber. I think it was.
The movie.
The Masters of the Universe.
Oh, nice.
Which was, it's like I don't know. It's like, it's not a bad film, but it's like I mean, Dolph Lumber is doing his best what he's got, and it's like He-Man, and it's because originally now I did some research. So Conan the Barbarian came out.
Right.
And
much too violent for kids.
Yeah, so they couldn't because I mean and I watched the first Conan the Barbarian, and he's beating people beating people and stuff. They're like, ooh, we should tone this down. So they basically bleached his hair.
Prince Adam,
and he lives in Eternia.
Right.
Or Eternia?
It's either Eternia or Eternia. Yeah,
Eternia, yeah. And I just remember he had the villain Skeletor. Skeletor would sound like this. But yeah, I mean, I guess that was that. And then there was Johnny Quest.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch any of the Hanna-Barbera Johnny Quest?
Yeah, I watched both them and the new adventures. Yeah.
But do you remember any of the old? Because it was like him, Matee.
I can't remember names, except is it Race Ace? Was his bodyguard? I think Race. I don't know. He had red shirt, white hair.
Yeah. Oh, it's something. Rex.
Was it Rex?
I can't. Rex. Because I
remember Bandit was the dog.
There was Bandit, and I do remember. I think Dwayne the Rock. They were gonna do a Johnny Quest like live action film.
Oh, okay.
And they wanted to get Dwayne the Rock Johnson. I mean, I think he'd be a pretty good to do
the bodyguard guy.
The bodyguard guy.
Okay.
I think so. I
yeah.
mean, as long as the kid's interesting, that's all. I mean.
Yeah.
But I do remember the new Adventures because it was like
computerized. Yeah.
Because it was like dun 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 dun.
Yeah, I definitely watched a bunch of that. Yeah.
And the Quest.
They had these cool like Tron cycles.
Yes.
Were they like getting sucked into the computer? I don't know. There's always computers involved in like holograms.
Computers, man.
I think they had Sasquatch being like an alien race or
something.
Yeah.
And then
much more like conspiracy theories type.
I guess. Let's see. Okay, what other? Let's see. I'm trying to think.
There's just like so many. Did you ever watch the Wacky Races? Or was it the Wacky?
I don't know. Snidely Whiplash, but it was
Snidely.
It was.
Yeah, and the dog. Yeah, something. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on to 90.
Okay.
Because I mean, Captain Planet.
Right. That's a great one.
Was a great one. The guy with the green mullet, and he turned you into a tree, according to Don Cheadle. What was your thoughts on Captain Planet? Watching it now, I felt like, man, they're just hammering this environmentalist.
Yeah, I liked.
Now, I mean, I remember it was sort of like I never like felt like I should. I always felt like, oh, I can't believe.
Definitely wanted a ring when I was a little kid.
Yes, Earth. What would you if you had like?
Ooh, what ring?
What ring?
It's probably definitely as a kid leaning towards either Earth or Fire.
Fire.
Like
I like the water.
The water one.
The water one would be cool. I don't know. I think, but the other thing too is I watched the episode. They never wear it on their ring finger.
Okay.
It's always on their pinky.
I never noticed that. Okay.
I watched it and I was like, and Wheeler was a little bit like, I'm from Brooklyn. Look at me.
Right.
Hey.
Yeah, definitely
Wheeler
like him as a character, but I like just because he could shoot fire.
Yeah, I mean, he was okay. And then Matee with his little from India.
Oh, the heart. Yeah.
Yeah, heart. And then there was like, I can't remember. There was water.
Wind,
water, and then there was the who was remember the villains from Captain Planet?
I just remember the lady with blonde hair.
And she always had and she was voiced by Meg Ryan.
Oh, I didn't know that. And there's she had like some computer guy that talked to her. There's like a guy that's sort of like a pig.
Yeah, I was like, I can't remember. It's like not Boz Nass,
but who else? They're always just like like capitalists. They were like, we're gonna make a bunch of money and dump pollution in the ocean. They were sort of like the guy from
Terry Silver.
Yeah, they were also like Terry Silver. Yeah, Terry Silver was a Captain Planet villain.
Yes, I do remember. I actually was watching like on YouTube, like they had 90s. They had an actual Karate Kid television animated TV.
Okay, I never saw that. I remember. Yeah,
I watched it and I was like going, Cobra Kai is so much better. Kai is so much better. I guess where do we go from here? Other 80s shows.
Oh, 80s. Are we in the 80s or 90s?
We can kind of jump around.
Okay. Do you remember SWAT Cats?
I remember SWAT Cats. That came out in the 90s.
Yeah, I think I want to say that's the 90s, but I'm not sure.
SWAT Cats.
That was a confusing show.
Yeah, I do remember.
A wizard turns the whole world to cats, and two people in the
What it's about?
Yeah, and the two people in the junkyard have like a secret
I've always
super.
seen like the first episode where like they actually had a jet, like just
in their junkyard.
The jet, and then so we're gonna cover Thundercats. Let's talk about.
Okay, Thundercats is a classic.
Thundercats.
Yeah, another great theme song.
Thundercats, and like here's the thing about Thundercats, and I was listening to my friend Bibbs. They were doing a lot. They were talking about. They're like the opening for Thundercats is so great, and then they spend all their budget on their opening, and the draw it's crappy animation.
Right.
I mean, like the way it's drawn stuff is with when the show happens, it's kind of like
not as good as the opening, but
I mean, there was Lionel, Chitara, who probably Panthero, who always I feel like they ever did a live action. Somebody posted on like one of the feeds of something. It's like Vin Diesel as Panthero.
I can see that.
See that? Yeah. And then like I remember there was Snarf, and everybody hated Snarf.
I like Snarf.
You didn't I mean, but Snarf was like that.
He's sort of like the Jar. It's like the Jar Jar Binks.
Jar Jar Binks. Thing. And then there was like two kids, right?
Wily Cat and I can't
remember their name.
Yeah.
I just remember there was two kids, and there was the bone-looking mummy guy.
Mumra,
is that the villain?
Yeah, it's shape-changing. I can't. He could change shapes, and he was like the embodiment of evil. I forget how you had to kill him.
I do remember watching. I guess
because he had a dog too.
I remember. Let's see. Other '80s shows. I do remember Jim and the Holograms.
I don't see that. No memory from Jim and the Holograms.
I do remember it was she was a rock star, but she could have her.
Jim. Okay, like Jim, like okay, gotcha. I was thinking like J.I.M. just like some guy. Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Jim Hawkins.
It's like who's Jim? Okay, but Jim. Okay.
Do you remember Jim and the Holograms?
I don't, but.
Do you remember?
I think there's tons and tons of with the Josie and the Pussycats, and now that we jabber, teens with a band that have some weird stuff.
They're called to action.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Do you remember Captain N and the N Squad?
No.
It was a Nintendo. Oh, so I haven't seen it. I'm never actually watched it, but I was watching through nostalgia stuff.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things was Captain N and the N Squad, and this guy was playing video games to get sucked in his TV or something, and he's playing Nintendo.
So it's even they're all commercials, but this is even more direct. This is a commercial for Nintendo.
And he's like, oh my gosh, it's Kid Icarus from some video game, and Zelda. Excuse me, they had this. It was Super Mario with hey, these guys that would act as Luigi and Mario, and he goes, hey, Serendos, we're here to talk to you about this. Because, back in the 80s, it was, same thing with Captain Planet. It was just remember to take the trash out. And that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But I just remember I mean, for me, I was hit, what really got me into was, I was 90. So, from 92 to, 2000.
Yeah. When was Scooby-Doo out?
Scooby-Doo was 60s, but I mean...
Oh, that came out in the 60s?
The original.
Oh, dang. I didn't know it was that old. Because I remember Scooby-Doo was always a powerhouse of...
Well, I mean, they've redone it.
Right, over and over again,
Over and over again. I think, they actually got, Scooby-Doo the movie, which had played by Matthew Lillard from our Scream movie. He plays the voice of
Shaggy.
He's the official voice of Shaggy now.
Right.
What was your thoughts on Scooby-Doo? You want to just kind of do a real quick...
When I was a kid, I really liked Scooby-Doo. It's hard for me to like the...
Scrappy was just... Oh,
yeah, but he wasn't in the originals. I don't know. Every now and then, laugh tracks start to bug me.
Yeah, I think if it works, because I feel like with a lot of... I think with animated films, it just doesn't really... Animated shows, laugh tracks don't really work that well.
Right, but I did enjoy them. I always enjoyed when they met up with the Harlem Globetrotters or Batman. They're just I can't remember the other ones, but those are the two that stuck out in my head.
Yeah, I do remember. Like, I think it was interesting because like they I do remember a pup named Scooby Doo.
Is that which one is it where they had Vincent Price do the opening?
Oh, 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo.
Yeah, okay, that was I just love Vincent Price's voice.
Hello. Yeah, I do remember that. I guess where should we go? Okay, so, other show. I mean, I remember there was I was listening to my friends. They're canceled too soon. Plug in. They did it. So there was a TV series that lasted 1 week.
1 week.
7 episodes of Chuck Norris.
I never heard that.
It's called Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris Karate Commandos.
I never heard of that.
Commandos spelled with a K, and it starts out because like apparently with a lot of these like television shows, it's like they show Chuck Norris like working out, and he goes, "Hi there, hi there, I'm Chuck Norris," and when and it was like I'm Chuck Norris, and it's like he had a team of karate commandos. There's a bunch of kids from like different areas, and he basically would go into the he would say like, "Hi, on this episode we're going to be talking about raising money to start a summer camp for karate kids," and it was Hanna-Barbera did it.
Okay.
It was like.
See, I don't remember that
because it only lasts for 1 week.
Yeah, I never saw that one. Did you ever see it's like the Paw Paw Bears? It's like these bears, and they like sort of formed like a totem pole, and they had some magic. I don't know. It was like a weird.
I do not remember those, but I remember action, adventure, and going to sunshine. I know it's maybe not. It might have been the late '80s. Gummy bears bouncing everywhere from everywhere. They would like fight trolls.
They have
gummy berry juice. They bounce and dazzle.
What are the ones that like lived in the cloud?
That's Care Bears.
Okay, because I think they had a longer.
Care Bears lasted longer. I think.
Yeah.
What
about the Smurfs? Smurfs were like there's also like spin-offs of the Smurfs. Smurf like.
There's Smurfs.
Underwater Smurfs.
Oh, God. Squirks?
No, they weren't Squirks. I can't remember their names, but it's pretty much Smurfs underwater.
Yeah. So, I guess you want to go into what? Let's see. Let's get to where our comfort zone.
Okay.
The 90s.
Right.
So we grew up. There was pretty much at the time there was Cartoon Network.
Right.
And they would show like classic cartoons, but then they would show like Space Ghost Coast to Coast. There was Fox Kids.
Right.
Do you remember Fox? Let's talk Fox. Let's talk Fox Kids.
Okay.
Kids WB, Nickelodeon, and maybe. Disney.
Okay, what was big on Fox Kids?
Fox Kids. Okay, so Fox Kids. Nothing was great till 1993.
Okay.
30 years ago. Dun, 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 Alpha.
Oh,
Go Power Rangers!
No, that's not a cartoon.
Cartoons. Oh.
Yeah, you got cartoon. We're on cartoons today, Steve.
Oh,
that's a live action.
Well, that's a live. Okay. So when the Power Rangers were big.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I remember having
cartoons. I would probably say there were shows like Eek the Cat.
Okay.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember that one.
Purple Cat.
I vaguely remember like and look, but I don't think I ever watched it really.
Bobby's World.
Okay, I remember Bobby's. He had like a little tricycle.
He was riding, and he had that pet spider.
Okay, yeah.
I do remember him, and it had like Howie Mandel, and he would be like, "Hey, on this episode of Bobby's World, Bobby's gonna figure out, because it's about his sort of whole life experience, and like his mom sounded like the girl from Oh, Don't You Know from Fargo.
Oh, okay.
And like you had Uncle Ted. Does that
no? See, I think I was much more like on Cartoon Network. So like I briefly like would on commercials flip over to the.
There was. I do remember that. I remember Eat the Cats. I'm trying to think what other shows were on. There was a lot of spin-offs with the Power Rangers. They kind of.
Gotcha.
There was one like we talked about. There was Big Bad Beetleborgs,
right.
And then their sequel series, Big Bad Beetleborgs Metallics.
Okay.
What
was that a cartoon? I'm trying to think. What was the one with Godzilla?
There was Godzilla.
Was that on Fox? Or
that was on Fox.
Okay.
It was basically what the story is. It's sort of a sequel to Godzilla, the 1998 movie. Where remember at the end of the movie of the Godzilla 1998. There was that egg that cracked open at the very end. So what happened in the show, I never saw it, but I've watched some like things on it. I've seen a couple episodes, but the little Godzilla imprints on one of the David or the Kapatskalis is the Matthew Broderick's character.
Okay, yeah.
But he's not as annoying as he is in the movie, in the show.
Okay.
And he grows up, and they fight like Mothra and stuff like that.
Okay.
Then there was and then Kids WB had, I do remember the Men in Black, the animated series.
Oh, that was a good one. Was that on, okay, I don't remember what network it was. That was
on Kids WB.
Okay, that's a good one.
Do you remember that one? And maybe what we'll do is we'll find it on YouTube one day and watch it when we could do all the Men in Black films.
Yeah, because that was a much more... That was a bit darker than your most like kid show.
Yeah,
so I really enjoyed.
It was sort of like,
and it just sort of felt cool.
It was cool. It was like they had the pug. It kind of, I don't know where it looked. It kind of felt like it took place in between the movie. Like because they never like neuralized as Jay.
Right.
This was 97, so 98. So they didn't really have any plans for a sequel anytime soon. But I do remember they would have like this little scope thing, and on the scope thing they would like
see who was an alien.
They would like pick one out, and then that was the opening credits.
Right. Yeah.
I remember it's time. Speaking of WB, it's time for Animaniacs.
Okay, that's a good
one. Yeah. We got plenty in our sax. We got plenty in us. Bill Clinton plays the sax. I mean,
is that the one with Good Idea, Bad Idea? Was that Animaniacs?
There was a Wheel of Morality.
Okay.
Remember Wheel of Morality? Turn, turn, turn. So is the lesson that we must learn. There was Katie Kaboom.
Is that the one with the squirrels?
The squirrel Slappy?
Yeah, was that part?
Yeah, that was part of it. And then and that was on Fox for a little bit. Then they moved to WB.
Okay.
But that was very clever.
Yeah.
And I think Hulu now got new episodes of Animaniacs.
Okay.
Which is going to be interesting.
This is sort of a bit off topic. Do you remember, I think it was in West Town Mall, they used to have like a WB store?
Yes.
And there's was there like a spaceship or log you could crawl into or something?
I think there was a spaceship.
There was something you like almost like sort of play structure you could crawl into about all these.
I remember the WB store. I remember how to enter the WB store.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me it was kind of like right across the street, right across the aisle from Disney Store, I think. And I do remember, and they had a resurgence, like, Kids WB had, because it would be like, Kids WB would be from like 9 a.m. and they had like shows like, they had Batman the Animated Series, which was on Fox.
Okay. And
then when Kids WB came, they basically took all their WB properties and put them on WB. What was your thought? I mean, there was Static Shock. You remember
That's a good one. Yeah, I did watch that one.
You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, Static Shock was sort of... Keep
talking.
Oh, we pause this.
Okay, we're back.
All right, so we're talking about... I think you just brought up Static Shock.
Static Shock. I did brought it. Okay, Static Shock. So Static Shock, he was a teenager.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He was a teenager. He got powers and became sort of like he rode around on a trash can lid.
No, it was pretty cool. I can't remember the theme song. I don't know if it had a theme song. I'm sure it did.
Oh god, yeah.
But I remember, I can't remember the theme song, but I do remember the show itself being pretty good.
Pretty good, and it kind of intertwined with like Superman the animated series. And
Right.
the animated
so like it had pretty good animation, but I think I remember just like the way it handled the characters being pretty good.
Well, it dealt with social issues, which was pretty like but it wasn't like in your face about it, but it was like very subtle.
Okay.
What was I guess the other, going back to the Animaniacs, Animaniacs used to have like kind of a section called Pinky and the Brain. The Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, was that not its own show?
It was a spin-off.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I remember, I love Pinky and the Brain.
One
is
the
genius,
the other's insane. The laboratory mice. Something spicy. I can't remember. The Pinky and the Brain. Well, at Comic-Con last week, I got to talk to a little bit of Maurice Lamar.
Oh, nice, okay.
So that was kind of cool.
Did he do the voice?
Yes, Brain, he did.
Nice.
Doinks! And the voice of Pinky was there too.
Okay.
So it was kind of cool.
Did Freakazoid, was that its own thing, or that also a spin-off from Animaniacs?
I think Freakazoid was its own thing.
Right.
It was sort of, but Freakazoid really played with the superhero kind of excitement.
Right.
What was your thought? I guess what we could talk about is, what was your thoughts on Freakazoid? Because I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think I watched it too much. I think it was geared to a little bit older audience a bit. But I remember just sort of, I loved the zaniness of it.
I feel like with Freakazoid, he was kind of like, it was kind of in the same way as there's Freakazoid, and you have like Freakazoid and stuff like that. And then I remember Freakazoid having kind of play with a lot of politics, like, or not social issues. I mean,
it was more like current events that I think he'd make fun of. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't remember, but I just, he always like make faces at like the president, of like, because Bill Clinton, because remember the line in Animaniacs song is like, well, Bill, we got salami in our sax while Bill Clinton plays the sax. It's man,
gotcha.
Maniacs. So it was kind of in that same area,
right?
Then I guess we kind of talked about, before we start with this one, we did a little bit about the Return of the Joker, Batman Beyond,
right?
Return of the Joker. What was your thoughts, kind of real quick, for anybody who hasn't seen our DC video? What were your thoughts on the Batman animated series first? Just
those are like, it's just like it's almost, I don't know, they're just great, I guess.
They're great.
Yeah, in short. Yeah.
They're so. They
capture like the darkness and moodiness.
But it's kind of like R.I.P. Kevin Conroy.
Right. He is the voice.
He is the voice of Batman. Like, you can't, because I think he also can do that voice where he's like there's like, seeing, like, I was listening to my friend Walter, who's works with Channel Awesome. They do Batman, where they go through 31 episodes of the Batman animated series.
Okay.
Each year. And one of them says there's an episode, I think the first episode, the Man-Bat episode, where he says the creepiest thing you hear is Kevin Conroy's voice coming out of Batman, Bruce Wayne's voice coming out of the Batman suit. And like, it was something that, and I would love to go into it more in detail. I think they made the Scarecrow interesting.
Right.
They made Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, all his villains had like these like tragic stories. Yeah.
Actually got nominated for an Emmy.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at Mr. Freeze, I mean, they tried so hard with Batman and Robin, but
Ice to see you.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. But that's kind of what but then, you get into Batman Beyond.
Right.
In Batman Beyond, we talked about Batman Return of the Joker, but what I liked about him, it was cool. It was supposed to be set in the year 2030, I think.
Right.
I don't know exactly what year.
I think my favorite thing is how they kept on the original, like Bruce Wayne, just as like his mentor and stuff.
Yeah, and I think there's like the New Adventures of Batman that leads on to it, where like I think he and Robin see each other. I don't see eye to eye with each other. I can't remember.
I can't remember that one.
We're kind of skimming through this stuff. Did we talk about Static Shock?
A little bit, yeah. We talked a little bit about Static Shock.
What was your thoughts on Static Shock?
I remember
trash can.
Right. I remember really liking it, but I can't remember too many specifics, like his villains or.
I don't remember his villains that well. I just remember he was kind of a kid from the streets, not streets, but from the.
Just a city.
City
yeah,
kid.
But I can't remember details. But I remember liking the show. That's sort of weird, though.
Yeah, it was a good.
I remember like not skipping. I remember like seeking it out.
Do you remember? Speaking, I know we're talking about WB, but let's talk about the spin-offs and rip-offs of Go Power Rangers.
Right.
Real quick, like with we talked about on our power. There's a lot. I think when you see something successful, there's going to be a lot of imitators.
Right.
So, was there any, like, because I remember there was Big Bad Beetleborgs. VR Troopers, which I do remember somewhat. They had a talking dog, and that's about it.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember that one.
VR Troopers. It's like they were in a virtual world. 1993, people. Virtual reality. But you want to go through, let's see, there's VR Troopers. There was, I never saw it, but the Vampires.
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard it or seen that one.
And then I remember Big Bad Beetle. Let's do Big Bad Beetleborgs and VR Troopers.
Yeah.
Big Bad Beetleborgs, it was sort of like these kids. I watched an episode.
Right.
Like the pilot episode. And it's about these kids. They go into this haunted house and they're it's interesting because it takes place in a comic book. Or not, it takes place in a comic book, but there's a comic book store, and one of the comic books is Beetleborgs or something. Something to do with Beetleborgs or something. And then they go into a haunted mansion.
Right.
And the haunted mansion has this ghost who's this like
more
Elvis,
like a genie, like an Elvis impersonator.
Genie who is like, hey, and he's. I'll be honest with you, looking at it now, it's really creepy.
Yeah,
or
it's
freaky,
sort of
not freaky.
Oh yeah, and it's sort of just
kind of unsettling.
Yeah, it was just crazy, sort of.
Yeah. And then they would I can't remember how they would morph.
I can't remember, but yeah, I think they ask for the powers in the book, right?
Yeah.
And it gives them the Beetleborg powers, but I think it also brings the villains to the book too.
I think so. And then the villain, it wasn't it didn't have the same, when you watch Power Rangers and 30 years later, you kind of can see that Power Rangers has a form. We talked about Power Rangers and how it has a formula. The kids are having an issue at school. Rita says, "Okay, since I'm going to make it more hard on you. I'm going to send a villain down. They fight the putties. They fight the villain. They get their ass kicked by the villain. They morph, fight the villain again. They beat the villain, but then they get a third round where the villain turns into a huge thing, and they grow. They fight the villain in the swords." Win, and they're like, "Oh, I just saw there was an explosion over there, over at the quarry."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, that was just the Power Rangers. Boy, howdy! Can't wait till I get to meet the Power Rangers."
Right.
And I remember Beetleborgs, I think having the same thing, but it was more horror based a little bit.
Okay, so it's a bit more spooky.
Because I think it was something to do with You're right. I think
were they fighting like a vampire?
They were fighting a vampire, but they were fighting it was made by Saban.
Okay,
who did Power Rangers. So I think it was a little bit, but it was Big Bad Beetleborgs, and then they were like Big Bad Beetleborgs Metallics. It was like a second series.
Gotcha.
Or like a second season that they did. And then VR Troopers, I do remember a little bit of it, but it didn't.
I don't remember that one too much.
I do remember I can't remember. It was We Are VR or something like that. VR Troopers or something like that. So that was the Saban era. What? I guess. Remember Life with Louie?
Life with Louie. No, I don't.
It was an animated show.
What was it about?
It was about this guy named Louie and his dad. He's in how life is just. He's just this fat kid that just. I can't remember that much about it.
No, I don't remember.
We're kind of going off our heads of all we can remember. So that's why we're kind of being really brief with a lot of these. What was your thoughts? There was Life with Louie. Eek the Cat. Does that?
Vaguely, but
Purple
I don't.
cat?
Yeah, I remember some purple. I don't remember anything else about it though. Sort of because I think it was not on these networks as much as.
It was on Fox Kids.
Yeah, I just didn't watch
You didn't
Fox
watch
Kids
Fox
as
Kids
much
that
that
much.
much.
Okay,
Yeah.
so were you more Nickelodeon?
Yeah, well, Nickelodeon Cartoon Network.
So our real okay. So I guess our going back to Nickelodeon. Do you remember Ipkiss and Real Monsters?
Yeah, that was a creepy show.
Because
Yeah.
that was it was kind of drawn in like the Beavis and Butthead.
A bit, yeah.
And
It's sort of like
then-
just watching it just made me feel dirty because they all like lived in the sewer and just like the way it was drawn.
So you had Ipkiss, I think is the name, who was this purple-looking elf-looking thing.
Yeah.
Then there was the
The guy with the armpits
Crumb.
who carried his
I think
eyes.
his name's Crumb.
Oh, is that the principal dude?
No, yeah, Crumb was the teacher,
Yeah.
and the teacher would have like kind of
Clown hair.
clown hair, and he would have like and you had Ipkiss. Ipkiss, you had. I'm gonna look it up, but
I can't remember their names. Like one guy had held his eyeballs and had like a bunch of armpit hair.
yeah,
Sort of like a weird
Crumb,
flesh.
His name was Crumb, or something.
And then you had sort of like more like a snake candy cane, sort of black
that
and
was the
white
girl.
striped.
And she could
She
put
like
her,
hissed
when they go to bed. He put his eyes in a watered thing, and she would put her lips on something.
Okay.
And so it was kind of, in a weird way, not a weird way, but in an interesting way, it was kind of the standard or kind of the blueprints for Monsters Incorporated.
Yeah.
Because they would live in the garbage and the dumpsters.
Right, and like I think it's sewer.
There was never like a door thing. They would just go into
the garbage or something. I can't remember exactly,
but they would go in and Ipkiss, like they would scare kids, and it was that kind of thing. I mean,
yeah.
it did have the blueprints for it. Did we talk about Doug?
No, we haven't talked about Doug though.
Talk about Doug?
Yeah, we can talk about Doug.
So Doug, he's a lovable loot.
Yeah, it's a great show. I remember as a kid though, I wasn't a fan of Doug.
You weren't a fan,
but like when I got older, I saw this is a good show.
I kind of felt like Doug was that kid that. Hey, I remember. Oh, that was it. Doug was one of those shows like. So Doug, he wore the same outfit. He had a dog named Porkchop. His best friend is a blue guy named Skeeter.
Yeah.
And he would like honk and make sound effects. And it originally actually was on Disney. And like it left Nickelodeon after a couple years and went to Disney.
Okay.
But Doug, and he basically writes in his journal. Who does that?
Dear diary.
Dear journal. No, he's like, dear journal.
His journal.
Today something happened. I tried to talk to Patty Mayonnaise, but I messed that up again. She doesn't realize I don't think she knows that I'm.
Yeah, who's the bully? Who's it? Green.
Roger.
Yeah.
And he had a cat named Stinky.
Okay.
And I remember it was his dad and mom, and his mom was like they were very I wouldn't say nerdy, but they were very, kind of like, hey son, how are you? Really like that 1950s thing. It's kind of family, kind of parenting kind of thing. And he's like, I remember, Doug had such a huge imagination.
Yeah, Quail Man.
We had Quail Man. He couldn't ever talk to a girl like Patty Mayonnaise. There was BB Bluff,
right,
who was the richest girl in school.
I think she had like a cell phone.
Yeah, and when we talk about cell phones, people, we're not talking about iPhones. We are talking about
a brick
cell phones. I think and there was Mr. Dink, who's like very expensive.
Yeah.
He always said everything was expensive, and it's like his latest invention. Very expensive. I remember there was an episode because Doug would have do you remember the episode where Doug is playing baseball in his yard and Mr. Dink has his grill?
No, I don't remember.
Grill that has that's his face that shows his face.
Oh.
And it breaks. He I got it, and the ball breaks the grill. And Doug, who's got this overactive imagination, goes, "Oh no!" He's like, goes, "Oh, it'll be fine." He knocks on the door in his mind. He knocks on the door. It's like, "Hey, Mr. Dink, I'm sorry, but I broke your grill." And Mr. Dink turns into this werewolf monster, and it's like, "You broke my grill! You broke my grill!"
Right.
And then he had just like the Jetsons, he had his daughter Judy, his sister Judy.
Oh yeah, she was like all the art. And
she's in art. She always had sunglasses,
like a beret, I think.
And I always feel like she would be like in like she's a beatnik.
Right.
Kind of, she would be in like one of those clubs and like snap instead of like clap. You know.
Looks like bongos.
Bongos, passion, fire, the earth, life, death. Right. You know, that kind of stuff. Then there's Skeeter.
Right.
Who he had his Skeeter Valentine, and he's blue. Skeeter was blue.
Roger was green.
Mr. Dink was purple.
Yeah.
And his mom was pink.
Right.
But he was white or peach.
I mean, they got colors. Why not?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I did like you sort of gave variety.
And then there's pork chop. Do you remember any speaking Nickelodeon? Since we're just kind of going off our heads. Do you remember any of their? I guess what other? I'm trying to think of Saturday morning. Do you remember their like maybe not Saturday morning cartoons, but they're like I'm trying to think of their Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, that's more of an adult. Yeah.
I think it was sort of their late at night.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Yeah, I don't know if I saw that much as a kid, but probably shouldn't have if I did. Yeah, it was.
I mean, you watch it now. I mean, the animation is like really kind of. It's not drawing that really. I mean, it's drawing really well, but it's just like it's a little bit kind of.
It's like extreme, yeah.
Yeah, a little crude and extreme.
Are you just looking for more Nickelodeon shows?
Yeah.
Like Cat Dog is a.
Cat Dog.
Was that a Nickelodeon? Actually, I get it mixed up. Okay, I get mixed up what's on what.
It was like Cat Dog, and like Cat would be like, I can't remember. They're like a cat and a dog, but they have like, and like dog would go to eat like.
Garbage.
No, not garbage, but I remember there was one that's like he wants to eat hot dog or like burritos or something, and as he's eating burritos, he's eating burritos, and it's like, cat, I have that goes through like I don't know how they like how food works and like
I don't know either.
But I just remember Cat Dog, like there was a cat dog. Yeah,
I enjoyed Cat Dog a lot.
And then like they lived with Winston, their mouse.
Mouse, yeah.
So that's Cat Dog.
And I guess the biggest powerhouse would be SpongeBob.
SpongeBob was surprised me because it came out in '99, and that was kind of right around the time Rocket Power came out.
Terrible. SpongeBob, good.
Yeah. Well, Rocket Power or not Rocket Power, SpongeBob. Oh, who lives in the pineapple? It's still going on for almost 20 years.
Yeah, I think somewhat sad. Right, I think the creator said like he wanted it to be over when he died.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think they're making it sort of. But yeah,
but like he's just like he's ready to kind of move.
No, I thought he died.
No, he didn't. Ron.
He didn't. Oh, I thought he did. I don't know.
We'll find out. But I do remember that Squidward.
Mr. Krabs.
Mr. Krabs, who's voiced by Clancy Brown.
Who's that?
Clancy Brown was in. He's done a lot of voice. He was Lex Luthor in the Superman.
Oh gosh.
Animated Superman show. Is it still on?
Yeah, it's still going.
How many seasons?
He died in 2018. 13 seasons.
The creator did.
Yeah.
So it's been on for 13 seasons, and I guess that was sort of the thing that lasted long. I do remember, Kablam! Do you remember Kablam?
Is that the one with like the
toys?
Yeah, I do remember Kablam. That was, I think, awesome. Was that more adult or
that
was maybe like teenager-ish? Maybe
that was with Snick. Do you remember Snick?
Yeah, Snick.
No,
is that
Snick. Snick was the orange couch.
Yeah.
There was. I know we're talking about cartoons, but
yeah,
there was Keenan and Kel. Oh, here it goes.
What did the Snick stand something?
Saturday Night Nickelodeon.
Saturday Night. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Snick Nickelodeon. I'm trying to think. Do you remember Sonic the Hedgehog, the animated show?
No, but well, maybe vaguely, but I remember thinking I remember being
like,
terrible. But
maybe
it was all
about chili dogs. He was like, "Come on, we're gonna eat some chili dogs." And like Dr. Robotnik
was against chili dogs, or is he
something.
pro
He was
chili
like,
dogs?
I need this. It was kind of the. It was the like that hedgehog is making my life a living hell.
Gotcha.
I need to kill that hedgehog.
Yeah, I guess I never got.
I mean, like
super into Sonic that much as a kid.
I was a Nintendo person.
Okay.
So you know we used to play on this TV. I think it's the same TV, maybe not the same TV, but
right.
We used to play like Duck Hunt and Super Mario.
Right.
But Sega was always like everybody. I always felt like you were cool when you had a Sega.
Yeah, I guess the Sonic game was better than.
But do you remember the show at all?
No,
not really.
No.
They actually had like a show where they brought it back and had an apocalyptic like show where like Dr. Robotnik took over the world and like.
Oh gosh.
It was interesting. Let's see. Going to my list that I've only other 2000 shows. Shit. I guess we could talk about. I did what was your thoughts on? Did you watch any of the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends?
Is that the one with like the
fire one?
Yeah. That was the older one though.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because I had the. Was it just the Human Torch and then the
No,
ice?
It wasn't Human Torch. It was Firestar, who was a girl.
Oh, right.
Her name was Angelica, because I had the video, I think, and I had like two videos. One was the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and Iceman would.
He could sort of like surf in on his.
Yeah, no, he would do this thing, and I think Iceman did this in the comics, where he would like turn a block of ice and then break out of the block of ice and become Iceman.
Oh.
And then there's fire, but I remember watching the Firestar, and then let's get into the Xmen.
Oh, yeah.
Now, did you ever watch the first try? I think we talked.
No, I don't think I ever watched that as a kid.
Pride of the X-Men.
No, yeah, I never saw that as a kid.
Wolverine, who's an Australian.
Yeah.
And which is ironic that it's played by Hugh Jackman, who's an Australian. You know.
Right.
But he's like. It's like X-Men, this is the day, X-Men, coming your way. Magneto's horns are on the way to build its force of thunder. Been a team that strikes like thunder.
That's impressive, Steve.
X-Men, but like X-Men, I felt like that show was a pilot, and you watch it now, and it runs really, really fast.
Right.
And I do remember. Like, it wasn't. I thought the animation was better than the animation in the animated show.
Oh, okay.
The 90s. I mean, it was better, but like I mean, and speaking of X-Men, what was your thoughts on?
I mean, that was a great show as well.
What was your favorite? One of my favorite. What was your favorite episode? I feel like it dealt more with social issues in a really interesting way.
Yeah, that's the whole point of X-Men, isn't it?
No.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, it dealt with them, like for a kids show.
Right.
They dealt with like Nightcrawler, which you kind of see in the X-Men television series or X-Men X2. Nightcrawler dealing with his
like appearance, yeah.
His appearance, but it's also his religion being
right.
Catholic.
Yeah.
It's Catholicism, and which was really strong for a kid show to do something like that.
Right.
But just to kind of, I mean, I think it was just something that, and they're bringing it back apparently next year or this year, X-Men 97.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah, so like they were like in a college or teen.
No.
What am I thinking of?
X-Men 97 is going to be a continuation of this show.
Oh, gotcha.
And then they're going to do X-Men. There was X-Men going back to Kids WB. There was X-Men Evolution.
That's what I was thinking of.
Evolution, I think it came out in 2001, 2002, right around the time when the X-Men movie came out, because it had Mystique. She played a professor or a principal at Newton High, and you had Kitty Pryde or Shadowcat.
Yeah.
And she was more of a character. But did you remember that show? Did you ever watch it?
Vaguely, yeah. I don't know if I was the biggest fan because I think it ended up being a lot more like drama between
Rogue and Kid Pride.
Right, but I think I remember a couple like the video game spin-offs that I enjoyed playing.
Now, what you thought? I guess we watched a lot of some other cartoons I remember watching is Where in the World? Well, there's two Carmen Sandiego. You want to start Carmen Sandiego?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember.
I do remember. So I guess for Carmen Sandiego, it came out. It was, if you remember Carmen Sandiego, it was sort of a CD-ROM game that was
trying to trick you into learning geography, right? Yeah,
bastards. And Carmen Sandiego had I just remember the show. Let's talk about the animated show because it was like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Carmen Sandiego, where in the world is she? Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Carmen, And it was like Zach and Aisha or Carol or can't remember the girl's name, but there was the talking head. They had somewhere in the '90s. It was like the screen. He's like, "Oh, Carmen Sandiego just stole a pyramid. You need to go to Egypt right away." And they're like, "All right, professor or boss or something." And they would fly there, and Carmen Sandiego would always have like her men with her.
Yeah.
And I think actually Carmen Sandiego has a television show, like an animated show now.
Oh,
where
still?
They kind of follow. It's not really like it's her. They're following her, but it's not like two kids following Carmen Sandiego.
Gotcha.
So I do remember, and then they had like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Okay.
Find her, and it was like a trivia game.
Gotcha.
Because there was a bunch of CD-ROMs like.
Right.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Where in time is Carmen Sandiego?
I'm trying to get you to learn history.
Yeah, stuff like that. And then, I guess we could talk about. Go Gadget, go!
Oh, Inspector Gadget. I got you.
Gadget. So I remember watching Inspector Gadget. I didn't, it was on Nickelodeon. When I first saw it, I was a rerun, so it wasn't like, but it was like Inspector Gadget.
Right. And was it the Claw?
It was the Claw, which was the villain. He ran a industry called MAD, MAD, and I'll get you, Gadget. And there's the chief. So like each episode would have like Inspector Gadget would be doing something, and then he'd be like, "Chief, are you there?" And Chief would be hiding somewhere. And he'd be hiding in like a mailbox. He'd be like, "I'm in this mailbox. Don't look at me. I have a letter for you." And he'd throw it at people and like you'd read it like, "Dear Gadget," or not Dear Gadget. "There is you need to go to England to save the Queen from a bomb."
Right.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
And this message will self-destruct in 16 seconds. It's kind of like the Mission Impossible kind of thing.
Right.
And so he would roll out the thing, and he's like, all right, Chief, because he's a little bumblebee.
And then he blows up the Chief.
Yeah. And then there's so they would go. That was the adventure, and Penny would really kind of help her with Brain. They were pretty much the brains of it.
Right.
And Inspector Gadget would just get off scot-free. It was like. Kind of reminded me of Mr. Magoo after.
Yeah, a little bit.
Now talking about it, it reminds me a little bit of Mr. Magoo, and get you, Gadget, and that was Mr. Claw, which I think was Get Smart, something to do with Get Smart because it had the voice of Don Knotts. Real quick, what were your thoughts on the Inspector Gadget movie before we move on?
Oh, the movie?
Yeah.
I can't. There's something about like a foot, and you have to be happy to move the weird cybernetic feet.
Yeah, and Matthew Broderick was in there. We'll watch it one day. I thought it was watching it now. I was like, that's not that great.
But, yeah, I haven't thought about that movie in a long time.
All right, but let's go into. So I talked about Transformers on one of my last podcasts, just the first episode, and they. In addition to Transformers Rise of the Beast, let's kind of talk about Beast Wars.
Yeah, I remember
Optimus Primal. What was your thought? I remember the anime. Like you look at it now and you're like going, "Oh, the animation's not great," but it's 1990.
Right. I remember definitely watching more of Beast. Flipping channels to watch more on. Okay, was that a W or Fox or?
I think that was Fox.
Okay, I remember flipping over to watch that some more frequently. So I remember it was like I think somewhat they crash land on Earth in the past, and then they do like a scan and they reveal the dinosaur bones. So they instead of turning into cars, they turn into dinosaurs. And other creatures.
Megatron turned into a dinosaur. Was a
T-Rex. Yeah,
and I know Optimus Prime
was a gorilla.
Was Optimus Primal, and I think that's the primal. I'd be interested. I would be interested to see how Transformers: Rise of the Beast deals with the Beast Wars. They're like Beast Wars. There's a rat named Rat-a-tat or something.
Right.
So this
is the show I watched more of, but didn't watch it in series. So I remember flipping back and suddenly they were in the future, but still animal. I got really confused at one point. What's going on?
Transformers now is sort of they've been still going strong.
Because at some point they switch over from in the jungle to be a sci-fi super city, but still part cheetah but with wheels.
Yeah, something like that. I do remember, but I remember Megatron was a T-Rex. That's
right.
all I can remember. And I do remember.
There's definitely a raptor.
I do remember.
Cheetah.
Do you remember G.I. Joe? Were you ever a G.I. Joe fan, or was that
the show? No, I think that was before the G.I. Joe show. Yeah, I don't think that was on any of the places where I watched reruns either.
I watched a couple. G.I. Joe would be on. It was kind of I'd like to go back and just kind of watch it, just because it was kind of the same thing as hey guys, we just defeated the evil Cobra Commander.
Because we replaced our fire alarm battery or something.
Yes, exactly. And just remember. If you hear that, you need to replace. It's like that. Remember that smoke detector commercial?
Oh, they
smoke detectors. And there was this. There's it's the PSA is it had the voice of Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, because it was the parrot.
How many smoke detectors do you have in your house? Count them. 1, 2, 3, or something. I can't remember. We need smoke detectors. But yeah, I remember G.I. Joe. I don't really remember them that much. I think it was sort of. I like to go back and go and kind of talk about the G.I. Joe story. I think we're just kind of glazing over it.
Right.
But to finish it off,
right.
You're a huge fan of this.
Yeah.
No, we're not talking about the Hunchback of Notre Dame gargoyles. But we are talking about Goliath and the Gargoyles, which you can find now on Disney+. So, Jay, take it away.
Yeah,
what was your thoughts on Gargoyles?
I really liked Gargoyles growing up. And actually, so this is the sad part. I don't even know if I knew it was a show growing up too much because I had the movie on VHS.
Well, I guess the movie,
and it turns out it's the first three episodes.
A lot of shows, would do this thing. They would probably release it on DVD video, instead of nowadays they probably release it as a full feature, here's a 6-disc DVD feature of Gargoyles with all 32 episodes, whatever. What they used to do back then, and I've noticed this with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the video on VHS, they would do 2 shows and call it a feature.
Right.
And I think that's what they probably did. You kind of watch the first 3 episodes of a show because, like I said, the first 4 episodes are your pilot episode when you watch a show because it gives people kind of know, okay, once I get to the 4th episode, this is going to give me enough time to really go, okay, I'm going to finish the series or I'm going to turn it off and watch something else.
Yeah.
But, so, Gargoyles, for me, I thought it was a smart idea because it's Vikings, so it starts out in Viking times, right?
Right.
Okay. And they're gargoyles that, are...
Protecting a castle.
And so they would freeze, or the sunlight would come up, they turn to stone.
Right.
And then did the moonlight, or did it just have to be dark?
Just had to be night.
So the night would come in, and they would break out of their
right stone shell. Right.
And they would go, and they would. I think the first episode they fought the Vikings.
Right.
And then
they get betrayed.
Betrayed by the girl vampire or girl gargoyle?
Yeah, but we don't know that. They get betrayed and they get like a curse gets cast on that they'll remain frozen until they're above the clouds.
Above the clouds.
Right.
And then cut 200 years later or 300 years
later.
Yeah,
to the present day.
Present day.
Xanatos.
Billionaire Xanatos, voiced by Roy. Voiced by Riker. William Riker.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's one of like the best cartoon villains.
Yeah.
I think.
He voiced Jonathan Frank.
Okay.
Voiced him, and he takes them all, or moves the castle basically to New York.
On top of a skyscraper.
And then, I think you continue.
Then they sort of break out, and there's a bunch of confusion of where they are, and like Xanatos sort of gets them to be his like
minions.
Sort of minions until they find out he's evil, and then they sort of learn they're betrayed by I forget the female vampire's name.
Oh, what is her name? I think it's like Xanadu or Brittany.
I don't know if it's Xanadu. Xanadu, isn't that like a song? Xanadu.
Xanadu was a place.
Okay.
And it was like.
But there's like this sort of New York detective gets involved, like
Elsie, Elise.
I can't remember her name, but she wore a red jacket.
Hold on, I found it.
We're doing the Troy McClure.
No, so Goliath, David Xanadus, then
Xanatos,
Elisa Monzella.
Okay.
She's a detective.
Right.
And then you had Lexington, Brooklyn.
Because they didn't have names until until they came to the future. Then they got names.
And then Goliath was voiced by Keith David, who Thomas F. Wilson was in it too. Biff.
Okay. Oh, gotcha.
And then, but yeah, I just remember. Like they couldn't fly.
Can't fly.
They would basically. It was pretty much kind of like ninja. Like the first couple episodes, it was like they would protect the city from people.
Right. I think it's progressive, like time travel and stuff further on, and the show progresses.
I don't remember that much of it.
Right. I do just love I do love the style.
We'll probably, Jay, would you want to do a podcast on gargoyles?
Yeah, we could cover some gargoyles.
Be more in detail. Darkwing Duck.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, good. Zane. Yeah, I just remember the one. There's like a hockey version of ducks.
Okay, no, that was the Mighty Ducks.
But like, there's like they were like aliens.
They were actually ducks.
Right. That
was kind of in the same way as One Saturday Morning. It was like kind of in the, because I think 97 was when that came out. I think, but let's see. Rounding it out, I guess. What would you want to end up on?
I don't know.
I mean, I would probably say, were you ever a fan of? Were you ever into any other, like, what other cartoons do you remember, or like TV?
I mean, there's tons and tons of stuff on Cartoon Network.
But you were just Johnny Bravo. You want to?
Yeah, we can end on Johnny Bravo.
Let's end on Johnny Bravo. So Johnny Bravo, he kind of sounded like Elvis.
Right.
Johnny Bravo lasted, I think, from it lasted 6 seasons actually.
Uh-huh.
From 1997 to 2004.
Oh dang! Okay.
So it was
a lot longer than I thought.
He had blonde hair, sunglasses, black shirt, blue pants, and black boots, and he was always like kind of between. God, it's like he sounded like Elvis.
Yeah, he did sort of. He sounded like Elvis.
He sounded like Elvis, and he always sounded like.
And he sort of like had the sort of appearance of like a super muscly guy, but he was not really that strong.
Yeah.
And he was more just like really out of shape.
He was loosely based, according to Wikipedia, he was loosely based on Elvis Presley and James Dean.
Okay, I could see that.
So I can kind of see that, and he always like he was kind of like he would be like at the Muscle Beach, and he's like, "Hey, look at that honey over there," and like he'd go over to these women and like
he pretty much like harassed women, and then he got beat up, and what is it? He always, I don't know if it was actually that. Was it Pops? It was like a milkshake person he went to talk to.
I think so.
And then maybe there's like a Susie was a little girl that.
Susie, that was. Oh, there was.
I sort of feel like it's sort of like if you see like one episode of Johnny Bravo, you've seen them all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like his show actually wasn't that good. It's more like his character personality.
I think his personality makes that show. I mean, like it is kind of like you do show like there are some sort of like shows where you kind of can put a character.
Right.
You put Niles. Do you ever watch Frasier?
No, actually, I've never seen Niles. Yeah.
Well, like you put like a stuffed erudite character and put him in a different situation, you can see where it goes from there.
Right.
I do remember that. I remember Cow and Chicken. That
was
weird.
It was a bit creepier.
But yeah, I guess that was.
These are some of our
favorite
cartoon
that we watched. Jay, I guess thank you for this for walking down this memory lane of cartoon movies or Saturday morning cartoons. We will be back with John Wick Chapter 4 next time.
Yeah.
I'll be working on the next video is going to be on for me to keep you guys at bay is
we work on the Zorro one.
We're going to work on Zorro, and
gotcha.
then I think maybe you want to go through the Scream series.
Yeah, we can start doing the Scream series.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Anyway, signing off. I'm Steveo.
And I'm Jay.
Peace, and don't touch that dial. Bye. Boop.